You wake before the alarm, and your hand finds the phone in the dark. 6 in the morning. You are still horizontal, one eye barely open, and your thumb is already moving. Left, 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 right. You are not reading anything. You are not deciding, not the way you decide what to cook or which road to take. Something inside you is sorting faces faster than thought, and you would swear it knows exactly what it wants. Then, later that day, someone asks what you are actually looking for, and you answer. Immediately, fluently. You have a type, and you can describe it. The sense of humor, the eyes, the way they write their messages. It comes out of you smooth and finished, like something you have known about yourself for years. Here's the strange part. You have never once watched yourself choose. You have only ever heard yourself explain. You think that explanation came from inside the decision. It didn't. It never has. The thing in you that chooses and the thing in you that speaks are not the same thing, and they are not in the same room. That split is older than dating, older than cities, older than farming. It has been running for at least 50,000 years, and every single ancestor you have was safer because of it. There is a very good reason your brain will not tell you why your thumb went right. It is not that the reason is embarrassing. It is that your brain does not have it. In 2005, in a small room at Lund University in Sweden, a psychologist named Petter Johansson sat people down at a table and held up 2 photographs of faces side by side. Pick the one you find more attractive. People pointed. He slid the chosen photograph across the table and asked one simple question. Why this one? They told him. Warm smile, kind eyes. Looks like someone I could talk to. Except sometimes the photograph he handed across the table was the one they had just rejected. He had swapped it, using a piece of sleight of hand borrowed from close-up magic. They should have stopped. They should have said, that isn't the one I picked. Most of them didn't. Roughly 3 out of 4 swaps sailed straight past, unnoticed. And then those same people leaned forward and explained, in detail, with feeling, why they had chosen a face they had just turned down. Some of them argued for it. Some of them gave reasons that directly contradicted the choice they had genuinely made 4 seconds earlier. Psychologists have a name for that. Choice blindness. It means this. When your own choice is quietly swapped for its opposite, you usually do not notice, and then you explain the wrong one just as confidently as you would have explained the right one. Johansson published it with Lars Hall, Sverker Sikström, and Andreas Olsson in 2005, and it has been pulled out of the laboratory and repeated in the real world ever since. Think of it as a press secretary. There is a room where the decisions get made, and there is a person who walks out afterwards and explains those decisions to the world. The press secretary is confident, articulate, and completely persuasive. The press secretary has also never been inside the room. You think you would notice? You wouldn't. Almost nobody does. In 2010, the same group took the trick into a Swedish supermarket. Shoppers tasted 2 jams, chose the one they preferred, then were offered a second spoonful of their own jam to confirm it. The jars were rigged. 1 jar, 2 lids, 2 different jams. So the second spoonful was the flavor they had just rejected. Blackcurrant swapped for bitter grapefruit. Cinnamon apple swapped for spicy ginger. Most people tasted the exact opposite of their own choice, nodded, and explained why they liked it. So if your tongue can be talked out of its own opinion, what do you think is happening at 6 in the morning with your thumb? Now picture yourself 50,000 years ago, at the edge of the firelight. There are perhaps 30 people around you. You have just handed a share of meat to one of them and not to another. And someone asks you why. That question is not curiosity. In a group that small, that question is an audit. Your answer decides whether you are seen as fair, whether you are trusted next season, whether anyone shares with you when your own hunt fails. You need an answer, you need it now, and it needs to sound like a principle rather than a preference. Notice what is not required here. Accuracy. Nobody around that fire can check the inside of your head. The reason only has to be immediate, coherent, and defensible. A person who paused and said, I don't actually know why I did that was not being honest. They were being unsurvivable. So your reasons were never built for you. They were built for an audience. The press secretary is not a flaw in the design. The press secretary is the design. And here's the part that makes it worse and stranger. The biologist Robert Trivers spent decades arguing that the most effective liar is the one who believes his own story, because a person who knows he is inventing a reason leaks it. In the eyes, in the voice, in the half-second pause. So the machine that generates your reasons was never given access to the machine that makes your choices. Not by accident. That wall is the whole point. You are convincing precisely because you are the last one to find out. And none of this is new. In 1977, Richard Nisbett and Timothy Wilson laid out a table of stockings in a shopping center and let people choose. People overwhelmingly reached for the item on the right. The pairs were identical. Every single shopper explained their choice by texture, by weave, by quality, and when Nisbett asked directly whether the position on the table might have mattered, they said no. Politely. Firmly. Michael Gazzaniga heard the same voice in split-brain patients, whose left hemisphere would calmly invent a reason for something the right hemisphere had done without telling it. The explanation always arrives. It has never once arrived empty. Which brings you back to the phone. Because the app does something the Savannah never did. It asks you, in writing, in advance, to state your preferences. Height, age, values, the whole list. And then it filters the entire world for you accordingly. You have handed your search over to your press secretary. In 2008, Paul Eastwick and Eli Finkel measured how well that works. They asked people at speed dating events what they wanted in a partner, then watched who they actually wanted, for minutes at a time, face to face. The stated preferences predicted almost nothing about real attraction in the room. People got exactly what they said they wanted, and it did not move them. They fell for someone off the list and explained it afterwards. So no, you do not know your type. You know the story your press secretary tells about your type, and you have been reading it back to yourself for years. This is not a reason to distrust yourself. It is a reason to hold your reasons a little more loosely. The next time you catch yourself explaining, with total certainty, why you liked someone or why you didn't, notice that the sentence arrived fully formed, and that no part of you actually watched it being made. That is choice blindness, and it is not a defect. It is a spokesperson doing the job it was hired for 50,000 years ago. Tomorrow morning, before the alarm, your hand will find the phone in the dark and your thumb will start moving. Something in you will choose, and something else entirely will tell you why.